This bed is on fire with passionate love.
The neighbors complain about the noises above.
Cause she only comes when she's on top.
Is that the line?
Yes.
That's the lyrics? Oh, man.
That is, of course, for those who don't know that song, we were just singing. This must be very alienating for you to join this podcast.
Yeah, they're like, what's this New Zealand podcast? I love the New Zealand accent. It's so interesting. Oh, and it's about movies. I love music. I love music. I love
it's
movies.
about music. Movies. I love music.
And then they go and click on it, and within
a minute,
15 seconds, we're already talking about
Laid by James.
I mean, if you're clicking on the American Pie episode, like, it's gonna get probably a bit worse than that.
It's gonna get a bit naughty.
This is unrated. Should I put that on the thumbnail? Unrated edition.
Yeah, American Pie presents film franchise Fortnights. Yeah, that is, of course, the song Laid, known for its risque opening lines. That's by a guy called James. It's been covered by, I think, a guy called Matt Nathanson.
Wait, it's just by James.
Yeah, Laid by James. Yeah.
It's like, do you think his Twitter handle is just James? And they're like, how did you get that?
Yeah.
Must have been first in. Or it's like...
Must have been the first James.
It's like James 71B.
Or it's his Twitter handle is the first James, because he wanted everyone to know that he was the first James. But then he's like, I could have just got James, and then people would have been able to extrapolate that.
Yeah. Totally, man. So this is a podcast for those who haven't tuned in before, where every 2 weeks on this podcast we discuss a different film franchise, and those franchises have varied in genre and length. We've done things such as the the 5 film Shrek franchise.
Yep.
We've
the
also
2 film Sister of the Travelling Pants. And if you're joining us because you heard me on a little podcast called I'll Be Back Catalogue, check it out if you haven't. I did a guest spot on there. These 2 local comedians are going back and watching every Arnold Schwarzenegger film in chronological order.
Chronological audio. They watch it in the order of when each line was recorded.
And then they and they discuss it, and they had me guest starring, not AJ.
I didn't even know you were doing it till you told me it was coming out.
But at the end of that, I'm sort of explaining our podcast, and I said that Kyle MacDonald is in Sister of the Travelling Pants too. He's not. A guy called Kyle MacLachlan is, which is what I meant.
Of Twin Peaks fame.
Yeah, not Kyle MacDonald of One Red Paperclip fame.
That's what people will tune into the show for, is how, like, even when they get information wrong, they always like retcon it and explain. You know, they do follow up. They check they
film
do their
franchise
research.
follow-ups.
Yeah.
So yeah, as I just said, this is a podcast where we watch and review different film franchises, usually chosen at random.
Including this one,
especially this one. And we watched the 8 film American Pie franchise, and at 8 films, this is our 6th longest franchise.
Really?
It doesn't feel like it, eh?
No.
It went by pretty quick. This doesn't feel like the 6th longest we've had.
Well, eight is child's play to me now. Like when we did.
Oh, you mean Chucky?
Yeah. How many Chucky films are there? Probably 8 of them.
That's probably about it. Yeah.
When we did the 20 Freddy vs. Jason films, we are you looking up to seeing how many child play movies there are?
Yeah.
Good on you. See, we do our research. Live on pod. We immediately got the 9 film Medea franchise, and that was a breath of fresh air after doing the 20 Freddy vs. Jason films. So
there's 7 Child's Play films. We were close. There probably will be 8.
Yeah.
Someone's going to listen to this at some point in the future, and there will be 8.
Yeah.
And I think that's really beautiful.
And they'll stop listening. We'll have to update it.
Yeah. So you were saying... You were saying something?
Oh, I was just talking about what franchise we've done. I think that part of the show has been covered.
Yeah.
So let's move on to the next one.
Can you name the 5 longer franchises?
The 5 longest franchises?
The 5 that are longer than this one. And this is... having Godzilla be split into separate franchises.
Okay, so we've done that. That would be Freddy vs. Jason at 20 films, Medea at 9 films, Godzilla Showa period at 15 films.
Yeah.
Then none of the other Godzilla franchises were as long as that, were they?
No.
No. And what else have we done? I feel like we did a 10-film one at some point.
We did another 8-film, but the films are shorter.
Okay. What was that one?
Beethoven.
Okay. Oh, of course, Land Before Time at 14 films. So that's 4. What was the other one?
X-Men.
X-Men.
I always forget we did
9
X-Men.
films, yeah.
I think X-Men was 10.
Logan was the 10th, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, that's a little bit about film franchise Fortnights. Another piece of fun
A
film
little bit about me. My name is AJ.
Another little a little film franchise Fortnights fun fact I wanted to share because I found this out today and I wish I had realised this earlier. But and I'm probably going to explain this in the most convoluted way possible. But if you were to say we release these podcasts at the exact same time every week, okay? If when you were like, I want to watch along at home, so you're like, I'm going to watch every film that they've watched for Film Franchise Fortnights. If you started watching when we release an episode, you started watching the first Lethal Weapon. Daddy's Home 2 would have 30 minutes to go when we release our next episode.
I don't understand what you're saying at all.
And half an hour before the end of Daddy's Home 2, we'd watched exactly 2 weeks of films. So we watched a fortnight of Film Franchise Fortnights films.
We have.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
And if you were to play along at home and watch those films without any kind of break, we would release.
Do you think
2
someone's done this? Or?
I don't know. I just thought that would be a fun way to explain this new. But I thought it was kind of cool. And it's cool that our second season, our second year, ended with having watched 2 weeks of films. And then it would have been good to realise that at the time.
When you say that, did you? So what? You calculate the running time?
The runtime of everything we've watched.
Really?
Yeah.
Well done.
Thank you.
What a pointless exercise to put yourself through.
Yeah. So that's my fun little fact for today.
Yeah. So if you haven't heard the show before, I hope you've enjoyed this rather self-indulgent little intro here.
Maybe put this at the end of the podcast.
But what?
You just cut that part out and put it at the end.
Nah, leaving everything in, man. What's going to happen is we're going to talk about the American Pie films. We're going to talk about what we thought of them. We're going to talk about where we think the series could go. We're going to talk about characters. We're going to talk about, I don't know, how these films may be viewed with a modern lens. And then at the end of the show, we're going to do a little franchise roulette, which will select our next franchise. And then after that, we'll be reading out some lovely messages from our fans. So there's your
table of contents.
There's your table of contents. What's it called at an airport?
Departure board?
No. Your
itinerary?
Your itinerary. That's your itinerary for this podcast.
The departure board for this podcast.
Yeah.
So first things first, let's explain what the films are. So, first off, in 1999, we had American Pie, directed by Chris and Paul Weitz. It was written by Adam Hers. He wrote the first 3. So, remember that name. Every film, the credits begin with based on characters written by,
Right, yeah.
AJ, what's that film about?
So that film is the quintessential teen sex comedy. I don't think you could get a more perfect example of a teen sex comedy. That pretty specific, but still, there's a lot of them. So that film is about 4 high schoolers, and they're at the end of their years at high school, and they're still virgins, Richard.
What losers!
I know, and they are inspired when the nerdiest kid in school gets laid. They make a pact with each other. They say, "We are going to get laid. We are going to lose our virginities."
We're going to get laid by James.
We're going to lose our virginities by the end of high school, and they set the end of year prom as their cutoff date. Great idea for a teen film.
And so, where are all their romantic lives when they start the film?
So, Jim, who's kind of our hero, I guess, the main character, he is single with no prospects. He's got a crush on the foreign exchange student. Then you've got Kevin, who's in a relatively long-term relationship with his girlfriend.
But they haven't had sex.
They haven't had sex, and her name is Vicky. Oz is like a player, but has never sealed the deal, I guess. And Finch is like a intellectual. I mean, I would say he's a bit of a dork. Like,
I wouldn't want to be friends with him.
Yeah. I think when they wrote the film, he was legitimately supposed to come across as like this exotic, intellectual, book smart person. I don't know. I didn't really like him.
Yeah. And so, how else have we got along for the ride?
And of course, there's also Steve Stifler, who is played by Sean William Scott, and he sort of is injected into the story as the party boy who,
he's kind of their like frenemy.
Yeah. He gets laid all the time, but he's kind of a dick. No one really likes him.
Calls himself the Stiffmeister.
Yeah. And I looked it up, and Stifler is an actual last name in America.
And what other characters do we have in our ensemble?
Sure. We've got the love interests of all the main characters, which include... Jim has a couple, mainly one in the first film, and then it changes in the next films. He has Nadia, who's the foreign exchange student.
Played by Shannon Elizabeth.
And he also has Michelle.
Played by Alison Hannigan.
Who is a band geek.
Cool.
Then you've got Vicky.
The Bateau Reed. And
she is Kevin's long-term girlfriend who... look, I'll just get right into it. She gives him plenty of blowjobs, but always spits. These are things that are specified in the movie.
They're important to the plot.
They're important to the plot. And she's never had sex either, and that's sort of the journey as Kevin trying to like find a way for Vicky to become ready.
Well, the whole thing is she says, "I'll be ready if you can say you love me." And he can't bring himself to because he's never said that to a girl before. Yeah.
We've also got Heather. That's her name,
played by Mina Suvari.
Yeah, and that is Oz's love interest. I don't know if there's anything specific to say about her.
Yeah, so she's the good choir girl.
Yeah.
And he's the lacrosse jock.
Yeah,
and so he joins choir and does all the stuff to impress her. Very much like Finn from Glee. And he looks very much like Finn from Glee. But Chris Klein's still alive.
And then
Chris Klein plays Oz, obviously.
Finch's love interest ends up being Stifler's mum, which we'll get into probably a bit more.
By Jennifer Coolidge. Mm-hmm. Okay, and I feel like AJ, like every time I was like, who else have we got?
I know. There's also the best, maybe one of the best comedy characters ever put to screen.
Yeah.
Eugene Levy's Noah Levinstein / Jim's dad, who kind of he's the only character to appear in all 8 films, and he has a trademark. He's got his, you know what Eugene Levy looks like. He's got his trademark like big bushy eyebrows, and his sort of role in the films is to be kind of like supremely awkward mentor to Jim and the guys.
If you go on Eugene Levy's Wikipedia page, it says something along the lines of he's mostly known for his like long-winded explanations of awkward situations and the way he deals with sticky situations. It's like his thing is waffling on to try and, I guess he's trying to backpedal out of an awkward situation, but he's just making it a lot more awkward.
Yeah. And the film actually gets its title from the
Don McLean song.
True. That never occurred to me that there's a song called American Pie. No, Jim, he bangs a apple pie because he's told that's what a blowjob feels like.
No, that's what a pussy feels like.
Right. Well,
to quote the film, to use the film's terminology.
They talk about third base specifically as being it feeling like an apple pie.
Yeah, third base is fingering.
No, it isn't. That's second base.
No, it's French feel, finger, fuck. First base is kissing with tongue. Second base...
What, so oral's not even in the bases?
No.
See, in my high school...
When I was getting with chicks in high school...
When I was in high school, I always understood it as first base was making out, second base was hand stuff, third base was oral stuff, and fourth base was sex. And I would always say to my friend, man... There's a huge jump from from first to second base. Like I feel like French kissing is far too innocent for second base to be hand stuff.
Yeah, no, it's French kissing, and then under the bra stuff. Mm-hmm. You like I think the base thing is generally
it's fluid.
It's for men to have on women kind of thing. So it's like. it's only the bases only signify things you can do to. There's no like reverse of it kind of thing. So it's like if first base is kissing, second base is getting under her bra, and then third base would be getting into her underwear with your hands, and then
I see. So that's why he fingers the pie before he.
Because he's like, because the whole thing is, what does a vagina feel like? It feels like it. So he like fingers the pie, and he's like, wait a minute, I can totally fuck this pie.
And Jim's dad catches him in the act and says, well, we'll just tell your mother that we ate it all.
Yeah.
Cool.
There's something that just reminded me of that I was going to forget to bring up, but thank God.
What does a vagina feel like?
Okay, so how does the film end? They all lose their virginities.
Does Oz? That was unclear. I feel like Oz learns it's more important to be in love than lose your virginity, because then the next morning, I might have interpreted the scene wrong. The next morning,
it is deliberately left ambiguous. By the time it comes to the second film, they have,
which is fine. Yeah. Like that's a cool message to show that. It's not.
Because even if he does, he's like not kissing and telling. So 2001 brought us American Pie 2, directed by J.B. Rogers.
Different director.
Yes.
And that film is about it's one summer after we saw them last, or one year after we saw them last, and
they haven't seen each other in a while.
And they everyone goes back home to East Great Falls, I think is the town it's in. And they go back there for the summer, and they decide to go to someone or other's beach house. And I don't know, there's nothing as concise as they're all trying to lose their virginity in that movie.
Well, the plot's mainly driven by Nadia's coming back.
Yeah.
And her and Jim haven't really seen each other since high school. Yeah. And Jim wants to have sex with her, but he's only had sex once with Michelle at the prom, and she ditched him. So he employs Michelle to sort of...
Well, you say that, but that's not till the last act of the film. So there's a lot of filler in... I'll say this now. I feel like American Pie 1 and the final American Reunion are the only two films in the series that do a good job of giving everyone something to do.
Right.
Because American Pie 2 is like, Jim has this like sweeping epic of a story, and the other characters are kind of spattered throughout. Like, their storylines are treated way more like a sitcom storyline than a movie storyline.
Right.
Like, if you look at the first film, they've all got their missions to lose their virginity, and that's very grand and epic. Whereas, like, Kevin, for example, his storyline in the second one is that he's seen Vicky for the first time since they broke up, because they break up at the end of the first film after they have sex. And it's amicable. It's fine.
They're going to different colleges.
And he sees her and is having to come to terms with the fact that they've been seeing other people since they saw each other last. And there's no...
It's still better than he got in the third film.
Yeah, of course, I'll get to that as well. But there's no like external action that represents his story. Like, Jim goes on like these like quests to.
No, you say that the Michelle thing only happens in the third act. Them pretending to be boyfriend and girlfriend happens in the third act, but him going to Michelle and being like, "How was I?"
So that's what I mean.
Happens early on. Yeah.
So that's what that, and then so the plot of American Pie 2 is basically Jim wants to get better at sex, so he talks to the one girl he's had sex with, and then at the end she says, you know what, I'll pretend to be your girlfriend, and then we can break up right on the night of the big party.
Because he's got a problem with his penis.
Oh yeah, he accidentally glues his hand to his penis and needs 2 weeks to heal, and Nadia turns up all of a sudden, and he's like, oh no, you're not supposed to be here yet, and so they do this big charade, which gets Jim in a very romantic space with Nadia by the end of the film, when he realises he's actually in love with Michelle. Happy ending for those two characters,
and the feeling is mutual.
Meanwhile, Finch is repeatedly having sex with Stifler's mum.
Well, so they have sex at the end of the first film, and he's spent ever since then obsessing over her, and then she shows up at the end to have sex.
But a better example of what I'm trying to say with like the characters not being, like the storyline not being distributed evenly between the characters, is that like Oz's story in the second film is he's in a long distance relationship with Heather. It's difficult. Then she turns up. That's it. There's no like obstacle he has to overcome. He just has to wait until
Yeah,
she
but I'm
comes
glad
home.
they didn't do she was sleeping with someone else.
Of course,
or anything like
yeah, I'm glad as well. There are more original stories to tell than that. But what I'm saying is, like, everyone else except for Stifler, weirdly, because he's kind of like the trademark, like next to Jim's dad. I feel like Stifler was like the face of the American Pie series.
Yeah.
They kind of push everyone to like probably like 10-minute storylines that you could on screen probably play out for about 10 minutes if you
Yeah.
put them all next to each other.
Yeah, it's a good description. Do we want to do Rotten Tomatoes scores now, or should we save it to the end and do them all? We'll do it old school. We'll go through, then we'll say what our favourites were.
Okay,
and we'll
okay.
Okay. So we haven't done that in a wee while.
No.
So next, 2003, we had American Wedding. That was directed by Jesse Dillon.
A different director.
Yep.
So American Wedding is about Jim and Michelle are getting married. I mean, that's it, right? Like, what are the big problems that...
Yeah. So we see Jim meeting Michelle's parents for the first time.
And they get the wrong impression of him. Meanwhile, Stifler is trying to bang Michelle's sister,
January Jones,
and so is Finch. So that those two are historically quite arch enemies, seeing as Finch bangs Stifler's mum.
Yeah, she comes to town and she's like, oh, I want like a button down, like nice guy. And so Stifler pretends to be this nice guy, and then she almost gets there with Stifler, and then she's like, oh, you know, like I love intellectual stuff with you, but I'm just like kind of want a bad boy. And then so Finch is pretending to be a bad boy.
Yeah, it's great, but again, it's another. It feels more like it would fit within a TV show than like a TV show subplot than a movie subplot. Same thing could be said for Shrek Forever After, that kind of thing. Like it's the very like cliche tropes that you'd usually see in like special episodes of TV series.
Yeah, I mean, because the stakes are very low for these movies, they're like they feel. I mean, it inherently kind of feels like a TV show because it's just friends hanging out and zany antics happen. I mean, is it antics or banter though?
Yeah, is it antics or banter? That's what we were talking about. People always talk about banter these days, but I feel like back in 2001 or 2000, when did this one? 2003.
This one was 2003.
2003, like antics were what banter is now. You know,
Yeah.
you sit around
Bit of
bantering with your friends, but it used to be a bit of antics.
Yeah. Okay, so that was the end of the Tridge. So then we had a quadrilogy of straight-to-DVD releases. So it started off in 2005 with American Pie Presents Bandcamp.
And Bandcamp...
And it's directed by Steve Rash.
Bandcamp is about Stifler's little brother, Scott... Matt. There's a bunch of Stiflers.
Yeah.
Matt, and he does a big rowdy prank in school, and as penance he's sent to band camp, which is mentioned frequently throughout the previous three films as being like where all the nerds go every summer, but they also get up to some antics there. So basically he goes to band camp and is a bit too cool for school, but learns to love his peers and get a girlfriend out of it.
It's oddly sweet.
Yeah.
So then a year later, so they're churning these things out, we had American Pie Presents The Naked Mile, directed by Joe Nussbaum.
And The Naked Mile sees Eric Stifler,
Matt and Steven's cousin.
He goes to... what is he? He goes to one of the colleges. He's in high school, and he goes to one of the colleges.
All right, now set the whole scene.
Okay.
Let's do it.
All right, so the film opens with Eric Stifler. His parents, they leave the house, and he's like, "Sweet, I'm gonna jerk off to some porn on my TV
on VHS."
Yeah, on VHS. And
I'm pretty sure these movies wouldn't even been released on VHS. They were past that.
Yeah, and so he attaches some headphones into the TV, and he's jerking off to his hot ass porn. And then his parents come home with their grandma just as he's reaching the point of completion, and hilariously he jizzes on his parents and grandmother, and his grandmother dies.
And
isn't that funny? Isn't that That's not what the film's about at all, but
yeah, that's your cold open, your hilarious cold open. So then we meet his girlfriend. What happens then?
So his girlfriend isn't ready to have sex. And
Eric's still a virgin despite being a Stifler.
This is important. You guys, you've got to understand, because you might have seen the first three movies. You've not seen the American Pie Presents quadrilogy. You guys, if you're a Stifler you cannot be a virgin by the time you finish high school. That is pathetic. That is not what Stiflers are known for.
It's disgusting.
It's actually making me feel a bit sick talking about it now. So basically, his girlfriend doesn't want to have sex with her, but he's actually really in love with her. And so they nearly do, but it gets interrupted by her dad coming down the stairs or something. Oh man, it's so convoluted and fucking stupid.
And then he shits in her dryer.
Yeah, for some reason he shits in her dryer. I don't know. Don't ask me about that. That just happened.
Like his upset stomach and his gas and his poo.
Yeah.
Like plays a very important part in the plot. But it's not set up at all.
No.
It's just like, hide in here, and then he starts farting, and it's like...
At least establish he had an upset stomach,
yeah.
but they don't. And basically, I don't know how... I can't remember how this all happens, but he ends up...
he's going to the college to, like an
open day, right?
Yeah.
But during the time of the college that he's going to be there at the college is an event called the Naked Mile, where all the college students get naked and run a mile.
Oh, sorry to interrupt. We missed something from band camp. Is that Eugene Levy, Jim's dad, is in it as well. He's like a guidance counselor at the camp.
Yeah, and Eugene Levy is also in the Naked Mile. He is what's her name? What's his girlfriend's name? Eric Stifler's girlfriend's name?
Tracy?
Tracy. He is Tracy's yoga apprentice. Like, she's his yoga instructor, I think, was how we first meet him. Anyway, he's in the film later on as well. But okay, I'm getting so flustered trying to explain the damn plot of the Naked Mile.
Yeah, you're not even at the best part yet.
Okay, so basically Tracy says to Eric, all right, because I know you really want to have sex and because her girlfriend's kind of talked her into
Her
it.
fucking vicious harpies that...
She tells Eric, you know what, you can have a hall pass. You can have sex. A free pass. You can have sex.
You can have a hall pass. You can go to the toilet whenever you want.
Well, there's an Owen Wilson movie called Hall Pass, which is about this.
My mistake.
She basically says you can have sex with anyone you want as long as it's just sex. And he's about to go to this university where everyone's going to be naked. It's very exciting. His other cousin Dwight Stifler's there. He's not Steve or Matt's brother, so it's a third expansion on this family, I guess. Anyway, and he has a couple of other friends as well. I'm just going to say right up top, the main reason this movie's so hard to relate to is because you expect a certain standard of your heroes in teen movies, right? And if you look back at the original American Pie, even Bandcamp has this. There's an underlining goodness to a lot of these characters. Yeah. So like, even if you go to Bandcamp, Matt Stifler essentially learns he shouldn't be looking up to his older brother. Yeah, because like his older brother's an asshole.
So the idea of being a Stifler has certain connotations. And Bandcamp is about learning that you don't have to be a Stifler, and the Naked Mile is about learning, yes, you do.
So the main problem with the Naked Mile is that she says, you can have a free pass to have sex with anyone you want, and he goes, great. Whereas you want your protagonist in a teen movie, because teen movies are written by adults, right? And teen movies have a responsibility.
Doesn't feel like it sometimes.
Teen movies have a responsibility to actually convey messages to teenagers that they maybe wouldn't have thought of. A lot of, while these movies are very sexual, a lot of the messages in them is actually like, love comes first, or love is more important than sex, right? But, so, if your girlfriend says to you, you can have a free pass, your response should be, no, I don't want a free pass because I'm in love with you and I'll wait for you to be ready to have sex, because you shouldn't pressure your fucking girlfriend into having sex. It's so annoying that he doesn't put up a fight. He sees this as a good thing, ergo the movie sees it as a good thing. Anyway, he nearly gets with someone at the Naked Mile. But
who's not my words, but the hottest chick on campus.
Yeah.
And no one has gotten with it. She's like a virgin collector.
She's a virgin fetish.
Yeah, her thing is virgin collecting V cards. And then he ends up deciding, no, I don't want to have sex with you, after, getting 10 to 15 seconds of oral sex. And then rides a horse back to his hometown and has sex with Tracy.
I'm not going to explain any of that. Anyway,
there's also a bunch of midgets in the film.
Naked Mile's probably...
That's important, and midgets is the word that they use in the film.
I feel like Naked Mile's the worst one.
Hell fucking no. Let's continue. 2007, American Pie presents Beta House, directed by Andrew Waller.
Okay, so Beta House is the most, next to Nymphomaniac, is the most explicitly sexual movie I've ever seen. there is a standard set by the first three American Pie
when you say
movies.
sexual as well. So The Naked Mile has a sea of
Full frontal
breasts
nudity.
and full frontal nudity in it, but it's not sexy. It's not sexual.
It's kind of silly looking because they're naked and there's heaps of them.
I mean, it's hot.
It's fucking hot. So, but Beta House like deals with. I'm probably not going to get into this in my plot summary, but it deals with things such as female ejaculation. That's the big one. That's the big chestnut this film drops on you. Anyway, and like it might be the first. Is it the first film where they actually show jism?
No, because he kills her with the jism and Nakama.
Oh, that's true.
And also in the first American Pie, in the beer.
Okay, fair enough.
It's in the first 20 minutes of the franchise.
Anyway, it's a really gross film. What's it even about? It's the same characters from the last film. So Matt Stifler has returned valiantly.
No, Eric Stifler is now, and he's now at
Eric
college.
Stifler, yeah, he's now, and he joins Beta House.
And Tracy broke up with him.
Tracy broke up with him because who cares? That didn't matter. And what even happens in Beta House? What's it about? There's a nerd house. There's another frat house full of nerds, and they want to.
Yeah, okay, so when I think of the plot of Beta House, I think of they have this Olympiad, which is like
again last act of the film,
and it's literally the last 15 minutes of the film. What the rest of the film is about,
couldn't tell you.
It's about them like settling into college, and they all like meet different girls.
It's their initiation into Beta House. They've got to get into Beta House. Yeah. That's what it is. It's not a good film. Don't see it. That's about it. And Jim's dad's in it. Yeah,
Jim's dad invented the Olympiad.
Yeah.
Okay.
He used to be part of Beta House.
Now, 2000 and... I forgot to write American Reunion on my thing. 2009, we have American Pie Presents The Book of Love, directed by John Pitch. And now, when you say Beta House is the worst one, I feel like you momentarily forgot about this film. So I'll let you continue. And
listen, The Book of Love is probably the worst one, but The Naked Miles, like that offended me. I mean, they all offended me, but that one was like astonishingly offensive compared to the other films. Anyway, The Book of Love. So in the first American Pie film, they find there exists a book in the high school library with a bunch of like sex tips in it that the guys use. It's not very like not even really like focused on that much in the original
Casey
film.
Affleck is in it.
Yeah, Casey Affleck's in it. But anyway, in The Book of Love, it's about a new bunch of kids. There's another Stifler, but he's not one of the main three characters. And essentially, I don't know, they all really want to get laid, and then they find The Book of Love, but it's kind of ruined, and it's just their exploits trying to first follow the rules of the Book of Love and the Bible, as it's called in the film, and learn how to be better at sex. And then they decide they need to rebuild it because it got kind of half destroyed and when the sprinklers came on after a fire was set at the school. And so they find the original owner of the Book of Love, the Bible, and it's Jim's dad. And with his help, they basically get all the information that used to be in the Bible and recreate it. And that's it. That's the Book of Love. It's not particularly. It is a concept. I'm surprised it took them this long to get to.
Yeah. Well, okay. I know you like love this. This is like you often talk about this, but the fact that so the first three spin-offs are all about Stiflers, and then Stifler is such a minor character in this one that I can't believe someone was like, this is the idea we have to do, and then made it an American Pie film by adding a Stifler and Jim's dad.
Right.
The plot, the film is so
I don't know,
fucking
man.
terrible.
I would say that Book of Love and Bandcamp are the two films that rely on the original trilogy.
Yeah,
most.
actually, you're kind of right.
Because one is about a character who appears in the original trilogy, and that's Matt Stifler, played by a different character, but a different actor, but still the character. And the Book of Love is about the book that appeared in the first film.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No, you're right, man.
Frick, man.
Okay, that's really interesting because Okay, should we go through what we... actually.
There's one more, damn it.
2012 brought us American Reunion, which brings us back to the original cast, and it's directed by John Hurwitz and Hayden Schlossberg. And interestingly, this one's not written by Adam Hers, who wrote the original three, which is interesting because I thought they did an incredible job of capturing the magic of the original.
So American Reunion is set 13 years after the original American
the
Pie.
13-year reunion.
And they're having a high school reunion, despite the fact that Facebook kind of negated the need for high school reunions. But
I think it's a very American thing.
Yeah. So they have a high school reunion and they all get together. They're dealing with adult problems now, but they want to so. All right, I'll just go through each of the characters. So Jim and Michelle are married and have a kid now, and kind of like sex has disappeared from their relationship, despite it used to be quite important to them. Kevin is happily married, but when he runs into Vicky again, it sort of brings up old feelings. Oz, who wasn't in the third one, by the way, Oz hasn't been in it since the second American Pie film. Oz is now like a sports commentator, like a semi-famous sports
celebrity
commentator.
And he also appeared on a celebrity dance-off show.
Yeah. And basically he's got a girlfriend who's just still basically stuck in her teenage ways, and he's not really
she's like a supermodel.
Yeah. And when they go back to the reunion, he meets Heather again, and it's sort of them becoming closer again after being apart and having different...
Yeah, she's now dating a chiropractor called Ron, Dr. Ron.
Yeah.
Dron,
Dr. Ron. And Finch's story is quite interesting. Basically, he says he's been all around the world, but it's revealed halfway through the film, or probably a little over halfway through the film, that he's actually lied about all that, and he's sold out, and he's not the man that he always wanted to be. And Stifler is still wanting to be the party boy, still wanting to be a teenager, but no one has time for his shit anymore.
Yeah, he's an office temp.
Yeah, so it's a good.
He never moved out of East Great Falls as well.
So it's a good way to bring everything back. Basically, the same problems that you have as a teenager, but they're put into not the same problems, but the same construct of problems put into being an adult.
Yeah,
it's quite effective, I thought.
Yeah, it's funny having not having sex still be Jim's problem.
Very cool, yeah.
But it's a lot more mature sort of topic. So...
And Jim's dad's in it.
Yeah. And, as well. So Jim's mum has passed away between when we last saw her in this film, and Jim's dad and Stifler's mum end up getting together.
Yeah.
And the film ends with Stifler finally having sex with Finch's mum.
Yeah. Very important aspects of the plot.
Yeah. So... AJ, how would you rank the films?
I would rank the films. The obvious ranking would be to put the first film first.
Yeah.
I really liked American Reunion.
Yeah.
I think it does a very good job. I'm inclined to maybe just put the first one first because it's got that excellent log line. 4 virgins try to have sex for the first time before graduation.
When you say excellent so we talked about this as we were watching them, and it's something I've said about other things, but there's an episode of Black Mirror that I've talked about. I wrote a big review of every episode, but there's the entire history of you, to me, is if you were to describe the log line of Black Mirror as a show, you're describing that episode.
Yeah.
And what was the other example you gave?
Friday the 13th. If you're describing Friday the 13th, you're actually describing the third film.
Yeah.
So that's the hockey mask killing all the campers.
Yeah.
That's
and
the
it's Jason
third
doing
film.
the killing. Yeah, exactly. So, it's if you're describing a teen sex comedy,
you're
describing American Pie.
Yeah.
It's the quintessential one.
Yeah.
And so, there is that. I mean, you can say whatever you want about how you can make it these days, or it's dated or whatever, and it's kind of that sort of, it's a relic in a lot of ways, but there's that purity to it in a lot of ways. I mean, excuse the virgin pun, but
totally, man. It's everything it needs to be. That's basically what I'm trying to say. So I'd go American Pie, then American Reunion, just because it was a very smart way to do a distant sequel. Then I'd go American Pie 2. Then I'd go American Wedding. Then I'd go Band Camp, which might actually only be at that point in the list because of the production value of it. I actually quite liked Bandcamp. I'm inclined to even put it after American Reunion if it had the same like budget and like care put into it.
Yeah, a lot of the characters aren't quite as lovable.
Yeah, exactly.
As well.
And then I would go, Beta House, maybe.
You said that was the worst one.
But did I? No, I said Naked Mile was the worst one. Look, they're pretty interchangeable.
Yeah.
The second, third, and fourth spin-off films are all very interchangeable. I mean, the only thing I can think of to mention is the Naked Mile and Beta House are like sequel. Like Beta House is a sequel to the Naked Mile, and the Book of Love is standalone.
Which I liked.
Yeah, I don't know.
I like the fact that Beta House was a sequel to Naked Mile. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, cool. Give me some time to get to know these characters. My listing would be pretty much the same. The one and Reunion are pretty interchangeable for me. Yeah. And then, 2, Wedding, Bandcamp, Naked Mile, Beta House, Book of Love.
Yeah, I think...
Book of Love is actually... I say this a lot on the podcast, but Book of Love is one of the fucking worst films I've ever seen. And so, if you do plan on watching all these films in a row... Like, you have no idea the breath of fresh air it is to watch American Reunion.
And maybe that's the optimum way to watch American Reunion.
Yeah, I think it actually is. Because it's not only is it cool to see these characters back together, but to have the American Pie name dragged through the mud for, 13 years, and then
to
finally come
reach
back.
The same heights of the first film in terms of, like, balance. Because, and I was talking about this before, the American Pie... and American Reunion are the only two films that feel complete. Like, American Pie 2 doesn't feel... as I was saying before, everyone except for Jim and Stifler, their storylines are very, like, meager. And like, the stakes are very low. And then Oz isn't even in the American Wedding. And Kevin doesn't have a story in American Wedding. He's just there.
Yeah.
So...
yeah, it's weird.
And then, I mean, the... spin-off films just aren't complete because they're stupid.
Yeah. All right, well...
there's no reasoning for it.
The critics and audience, we've got some interesting things to say. So, the original American Pie has a critics score of 60 and an audience score of 61. American Pie 2 has a critics score of 52, but an audience score of 68.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that makes sense,
making it the highest rated audience score.
But that makes sense because we've talked about this before, is that sequels often get quite high audience ratings because, especially the demographic that American Pie was like aiming towards, because it's like those
you're
are
already on board.
They're like hormonal, sex-driven teenagers are watching these films, so of course they're going to love the second one.
Yeah. American Wedding has a critic score of 54, audience score of 63. So critics go 1, 3, 2, audience goes 2, 3, 1.
American Wedding's a bad movie. It's not a good movie.
And then on to the spin-offs. Bandcamp has a critic score of 17, audience score of 50. Naked Mile has a critic score of 0 and an audience score of 61. Beta House doesn't have a critic score, and neither does Book of Love, but the audience scores respectively are 56 and 28. American Reunion, critic score 43 and audience score of 63. I think the critics are being unfairly harsh on it.
What do they say about it?
What did it say? It was like it tries and fails to recapture the original.
I mean, it depends what you're looking for in a movie. Like, I don't know. I mean, just by virtue of them being older, you wouldn't really call it a teen movie necessarily. Well, yeah, but like... it's made for that very specific demographic of people who saw the first one and grew up. Yeah,
and they chuck in some sexy boobies for the
lads.
For the lads. And, you know, they are sexy boobies.
They are.
Sexy boobies is like such a funny phrase.
So... last franchise we did when we were inebriated, and I, listening back, learned how much I say the phrase, would you agree? Would you agree that I say that a lot?
Yeah.
We talked about, and this is funny because we had no idea we were going to do American Pie next, we talked about how, like, problematic The Hangover, that was the franchise, I don't think I mentioned that. We did The Hangover. We talked about how problematic the Hangover is a mere, 5 years after the last one came out.
Yeah.
Like, and how it's crazy that, like, somewhere between The Hangover Part 3 in 2013 and where we are in 2018, like, there are so many, like, things you can't you shouldn't say anymore that were commonplace.
Like sexy boobies. I feel like
I think sexy boobies is still fine, but like there's a lot of
objectifying women though is like
yeah. But
then I mean I guess that's the reason that character is put on screen.
Yeah,
Anyway, that's a slippery slope.
The Hangover movies have a lot of like homophobic language in it. They have a lot of like male gaze kind of things. And we were talking about like, oh, it's crazy that like times have changed so fast. Then we watched fucking American Pie, which like American Pie as a series is like the most egregious form of the male gaze I might have ever seen in a film you would still see as somewhat contemporary. Like maybe the spin-offs are definitely worse, but to give you if you haven't seen the American Pie films, every female character in these films, if they're not ugly, and most of them are hot, like they are very keen to have sex. They are very attracted to even the most meager attempts to of seduction. They like Jason Biggs, who plays Jim. He's Hollywood ugly. And not even that like normal handsome either. Like he's all right. He's I'm not saying he's ugly, but he's certainly not the most handsome dude in the world. And like Nadia, who's his like foreign exchange student crush, is like one of the most attractive actresses I have ever seen. And she likes him. She's into him. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen. I'm saying that you wouldn't get the opposite of that. You wouldn't get the hot guy getting with the ugliest girl in these movies. Not that there are any ugly girls in this movie. So
you said every girl unless they're ugly. Are you saying Natasha Lyonne? Are you talking about her character as well?
Who's that? Who'd she
Jess?
play?
Because I'd say she's
I'd
say she's the best, one of the best female characters. Mm-hmm. Because she's just kind of there to sort of help everyone. She actually has a pretty sizable role, but it's like not very memorable.
No.
And she's not in the third one, and then she's literally in a reunion for about 30 seconds despite being on the poster, but that's because they did a basically a shot for shot remake of the original poster. But yeah, she's quite an interesting character. She ends up, it's revealed that she's a lesbian in Reunion. But yeah, she's the kind of, she's attractive, mm-hmm. and she's never really the object of anyone's affection.
Mm-hmm. And I really liked Vicky, Tara Reid's character in the first film. I quite liked Vicky. I thought she was she felt like a real teenage girl. Like she acted in the way that I knew plenty of teenage girls acted. Everyone else is kind of a caricature. And Vicky's storyline post the first film, well, she's only in two others. She's in the second one and Reunion. And in the second one, she's not featured that much. And in Reunion, this is post Tara Reid's, I don't know, did she go through a breakdown? What happened there?
Yeah, she hasn't been done well, I think.
And
she's in all the Sharknado movies.
I don't know. I'm sympathetic to the actress, but she's lost some of her natural on-screen talent, I think, by Reunion.
When was Big Lebowski?
When was it?
Yeah.
The 90s? Mid-90s?
Yeah, 'cause she's in that.
Is she? Oh, she is too. She's Bunny.
Yeah.
So that was before American Pie.
Yeah. So she might have been one of the biggest stars going into it.
True.
She feels like it. She has that kind of Paris Hilton-esque, that sort of ethereal quality about her.
But anyway, it's still just the way, and especially in the okay, so we talked about Bandcamp and how I was kind of saying it's actually all right. That being said, the main plot involves the main character setting up spy cams all over Bandcamp, including the women's showers, so he can compile videos of unsuspecting naked women. Wild. And he's painted as the hero. That's like a cool, wacky thing that old Stifler's doing this time. But it's not only is that illegal, but if I knew of a friend who did that or someone who did that, I'd be like, I never want to speak to you again. That is so gross and weird that you did that.
Yeah. Yeah, where to begin, eh?
It's just I think you and I, all these things have culminated. The fact that we live in the times we do now, the fact that we're doing a podcast which not only involves us watching films but then unpacking them together. Because of that, we and I haven't seen this written down much, which is why I'm bringing it up like I've discovered it. When you look at like the difference between like Back to the Future, you look at the difference between the 50s and the 80s. It's huge, like huge difference between those time eras. I think we have just become conscious of a huge shift in era. Like we've changed eras. And like the last American Pie movie came out in 2012, 13? Yeah, 12. So that, again, that's before Hangover Part 3. So there you go. But also, like, the one before that was 2009 with Book of Love. And they, even then, even as, like, that does not feel like a long time ago to me.
Yeah.
Even then, though, you look at how college is depicted. You look at how it's all women ripping their shirts off so that you can pour tequila over their boobs. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that might not be realistic, but it was how college was accepted to be portrayed in film.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I've never been to college, so I don't know if that's what it's actually like. But it's very, like...
Not for guys like us.
It's very, like... dirty and filthy and rugged, and like the people who are the most dirty and the most sexy are touted as the heroes. My knowledge of college as a stereotype now is like trigger warnings and getting in fights with your professor because they're teaching you about like
evolution.
Slavery and well, not evolution. It would be the opposite. It would be the people who aren't preaching evolution or talking about evolution that would get in trouble because it's like the college. I want to say it's become more liberal, but it was liberal depicted in these kind of
different kind of
liberal has changed to be about respect and like
not being offended
to a fault. I'm not saying that I think people should be nice to each other.
I'm not saying I prefer tequila poured.
I don't know what I
boobies.
prefer. They both make me supremely uncomfortable. But it's funny that like these movies have dated so poorly. And in such a small time frame.
Yeah, the fact that... Yeah, because they've aged, but we feel like they still need to be held up in today's standards. So something like Back to the Future has... I mean, Back to the Future is a pretty good example. But like, say, okay, something like Revenge of the Nerds, which has like actual just rape in it.
Well, she likes it though, so it's okay. Sarcasm.
Okay, it has several instances of various types
of male
sexual assault,
rape culture.
Yeah, it's totally like sexual harassment, sexual assault, all these kind of things. But we are able to say, "Oh, that's pretty bad," but that was okay at the time, or like
not that it was okay, but it's like that's just what people thought was okay.
Yeah, but now we still expect films from 2007 to be held up in today's things because we haven't. Cut it off as being like 2010 was the end of an era. Anything before that is how it was at the time. It's still like, yeah, that doesn't fly, and it's been 11 years, and we're still like, you can't say that. But it's like it is a different era, and especially like the rise of social media and everyone's being told that their opinion is as valid as everyone else's because they can broadcast it for the world to see. It's the era has the like social whatever has changed so much in the last 10 years that we should see it as a completely different era because there's been more change almost in the last 10 years than there has been in any other.
Look, maybe every generation has gone through this like shameful look back. Like maybe we're just discovering it. Like I don't know if we have any older listeners,
people
listening.
in like the late 80s were like, do you know that we're actually further away from the moon landing than we are to 9/11? And they're like, wait, what's 9/11?
So if you're I don't know, if you were an active member of society in say like the 80s, did you notice? I don't know if we have any listeners of that description, but if you do, did you notice like
my parents?
Yeah. Did you notice there was a shift in what was depicted on screen as being okay, and was it during? Did you experience that shift in real time, so it was more jarring and shocking? I guess.
Yeah, I guess that's because it happens so quickly now that like. Every 2 years they're like, you can't say this word now because it's offensive, and maybe not as clear cut as that, but to go back 5 years to The Hangover Part 3 and hear the word gay or retarded being used negatively, it's like we're kind of told that those words are, they're actually like campaigns to get rid of those words.
Yeah.
And so it's a very definitive point of when you can do it, whereas something like bell-bottom jeans just kind of fall out of fashion. And so if you're watching something from 5 years ago and they're wearing bell-bottom jeans, like I wonder how that, like, you know, back in the 80s and 70s or whatever, is like, because the trends are more would just fall out.
Trends both in fashion and language expire, but it just so happens that when they expired in our generation, it was because they were offensive and not because they were uncool.
Yeah, I think that's the sort of thing of why we feel like these sort of things, because the changes in culture are falling out of fashion, not becoming offensive. Whereas now the changes in culture are due to things becoming offensive or becoming problematic or unacceptable. And I mean, on the whole, I guess the argument could be made PC culture is a good thing because we're not offending people, but then, you know, you can make the argument for the side. That's a completely different podcast.
You and I are both in the middle of, like, I would describe both of us as fairly politically centered. I don't know if we want to get into this, but basically what I'm saying is like, I'm not as liberal as to believe there should be trigger warnings on everything, but I'm also not as right as to believe people shouldn't know what they're getting into, I guess.
Yeah,
I think as well, like
you should. My like opinion is that if something's offensive, that means like it shouldn't be, you know, or there should be sort of rules around it. But if something offends you, that doesn't necessarily mean anything.
Yeah. So another thing I think to take into consideration with this whole conversation as well is like, we have deep catharsis for the original American Pie movies as well.
Yeah.
Like, so
even some of the spin-offs for me, because of the time of my life when you watch them, and so that is like even the problematic parts, you can it takes you back to a time when you weren't supposed to watch these films.
Yeah, man, and we talked about this ages ago on Scary, and then when you did the Scary Movie podcast. Yeah. Like, we were too young to watch the first American Pie when it came out in '99, but seeing that movie at my Video Easy or my Blockbuster on the shelf for years when I'd go there to like just look around at the movies, that was always the movie that was like, one day when I'm old enough, I'm totally going to watch that movie because the little like hormones in my 9 to 12-year-old body were going off the charts, and I was like, that movie makes me feel a way I don't quite understand, but it's exciting, right? Because I would also say I'm not, like, when it comes down to it, I'm not that big a fan of the movies themselves. The American Reunion was like all about context, so I really enjoyed that because of the context we watched it in. But when I finally saw, I think the first one I saw was Bandcamp, and that was like at a party when I was like 13.
Yeah.
Or like a sleepover with the boys. And then I remember I would have been 16 when all my friends got into this big American Pie phase, and I watched the first 3 films, and I remember thinking when I watched the first one, oh, that was all right. So like, and then, I mean, diminishing returns from there. So while I wouldn't say I like the movies that much in terms of what they are, I love how these movies make me feel. Like, I love the
we're nostalgia junkies.
There's this nostalgic, maybe in part sexual awakening, maybe in part like like just seeing like another culture, because New Zealand culture isn't quite as, I don't know if that's a realistic depiction of American culture, but it's not quite as rampant as that. So
I mean, there are pockets of that in American culture, but I think there really are pockets of that in New Zealand culture.
Yeah.
We're a lot more into weed.
Yeah.
Not us specifically, but New Zealand as a country.
Yeah.
Is if there was like an American Pie type movie about New Zealand, there would be a lot of weed.
New Zealand's pie, shepherd's pie.
It feels like a hot shepherd's pie.
So I don't like, and that was sort of before we started this podcast. Well, actually not like right before, but when we started watching American Pie, that's all I thought we were going to talk about, is how, like, similar when we talked about Shrek, like how the place of American Pie in my heart and in my life is very important to me, because it's like, these risque, wacky movies that my parents never allowed me to watch, and that exemplified all the shit we talk about with our friends, but usually don't see it portrayed on screen. But instead, we're talking about how like horribly dated they are.
Yeah,
but I guess that's fair enough.
I'm the same as you. Like these movies just make me like giddy.
And I actually think it's the soundtrack's a huge part of that as well.
Hell yeah!
Like that early noughties. Late
Blink-182,
90s,
Good
early
Charlotte.
noughties soundtrack is like when I hear this voice, like that 2000 singing voice. I don't think of Blink-182. I don't think of like what's another
Sum 41.
Sum 41. I think of American Pie. That's the image, that the poster for the first American Pie film is what pops into my head when I hear that tone of singing. I think of American Pie.
Yeah, that like. So I think I'm with The Hangover. I mean, at least the third one, but they just make me so giddy. I just love the way they make me feel. I love the time in my life that it takes me back to, and I mean, I'm 100% sure the next franchise is going to shit all over that, and make me just feel sad. But
what, the next franchise we cover?
Yeah,
okay,
no doubt. But yeah, it's. Yeah, they're good films, but they're not necessarily ones that if someone had never seen them, I'd be like, oh, you have to go watch them.
Yeah, are you talking about American Pie?
Yeah.
So, are you talking about American Pie in this podcast? I thought maybe you were talking about Hangover, but yeah, I was talking with some friends the other day about American Pie and how like not only American Pie but that genre that it stood for. You've got movies like 100 Girls, 40 Days, 40 Nights, like those. Like,
I think I know 100 Girls.
Oh, okay. It's about a guy who...
I mean, I know 100 Girls personally.
It's about a guy who has sex with a girl when the elevator breaks down. He never sees her face. And so in order to figure out who she is after they get out, he has sex with 100 girls to try and figure out who it is. Anyway.
I'm sure there's more to the plot.
Like Harold and Kumar. Like these
Harold
films...
Harold and Kumar is different.
You reckon?
Yeah, it's a stoner comedy.
Sure. Yeah. They're hop, skipping, and jumping away though. They're pretty similar in tone. But the American Pie like style of film used to be quite prevalent, and then it was bootlegged with itself. Like the American Pie Presents series essentially is like we we discovered that there's actually a film called Hole in One, which many falsely
was a very close call.
Many falsely accredit to being an American Pie film because we had a list of the films up and Hole in One was listed, and we were like, there is very rarely a blind spot in Richard and my pop cultural knowledge of films. Like we either don't know about a franchise at all, or we know everything about that franchise, or at least all the films in it. And it turns out it's just a film called Hole in One that stars the guy who played Dwight Stifler, and on the front cover of the DVD it says American Pie plays golf.
Because it's just a raunchy sex comedy about golf.
Anyway, what I was saying was American Pie has that purity about it that we were talking about before, and so I was saying like, what can you extrapolate from American Pie that's good and retool into a movie you could put out today? Because there's an argument to be made that maybe young adult dystopian films kind of filled the void for teen comedies, but I would say they are very different because they're never about sex. They're always very sexless.
Do you know, it's interesting, one of the, like, talking about depictions of high school and college as 21 and 22 Jump Street are like the kind of, for me anyway, the best like modern examples of high school and college depictions.
Yeah, no, totally.
And of course Monsters University.
Yeah. But you could also make an argument that, like, if you say what's a teen movie in 2018, you could look at something like Edge of 17, but that's a coming of age film, and again I feel like that's a different genre to teen
I mean
films.
I think that a film like American Pie I don't think would get made today. A female version of American Pie I think could get made. I think that's like the
American bratwurst.
But then there are so many films that are just American Pie with girls.
You know what it'd be called?
What?
And excuse me for this horrific riff I'm about to go on, Mum and Dad, but it'd be called like American Pineapple, and it'd be that same conversation about apple pie feeling like a vagina, but with, if you make your boyfriend eat pineapple, his jizz will taste better.
Got it.
That's what it'd be about. That's totally what it'd be about. That's not my continue the franchise, but that's a good idea. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it's not a good idea. Anyway, yeah, maybe you can't make an American Pie these days just because of the culture of the time. Maybe that's a good thing. I just feel like there's got to be something good in there. Like, maybe if the girls in American Pie films were depicted more realistically, like maybe if they kind of showed off that, like, them wanting to have sex was their decision and not that they were being written by a man. Like, they just feel so unrealistic and cardboard, you know?
Yeah. Right. There's a discussion I've been wanting to have with you on pod for almost 2 years now.
Here it goes.
Now, can you, for the purposes of the podcast, play devil's advocate and just go along with it? Because you've since pussed out on your, so to speak.
It's not about pussing out. It's about, it's just, okay. Here's,
okay.
I'll let you tell the meat of the story, but let me set it up.
Okay. So
basically,
I thought the meat of the story was getting to set up the scene. Okay.
No, I won't set up the scene. I'll set up the scenario. Basically, there's a line in the first American Pie that when I first saw it, I misinterpreted it and went on IMDb, saw someone else had misinterpreted it, forgot about it. Richard brings it up 100 years since I've seen the film, and I say, I thought it meant this. Richard's red, like his face goes red, steam comes out of his ears, and he goes, "You thought that's what that meant?"
No, see, it wasn't. The discussion wasn't, I thought it meant this. It was, no, it's this.
Was it?
And then, no, I found one other person that thinks that. So, okay.
I had to ask 5,000 people, but I finally found someone who
it's the
maybe
same thing
agrees
with the
me.
fucking asking my parents about the lost episode. It's like, AJ, if you ask 5,000 people, there'll be one that agrees with you.
I've got a point to make about the lost. We'll talk about this at the end.
AJ, okay.
You go into this part. I don't want to go on too many tangents right now.
So there's a part in the first American Pie. So as we discussed, there's the Book of Love. Kevin's character's just found the Book of Love, and it teaches him. It has details on how to perform amazing oral sex on your girlfriend.
The tongue tornado.
And so he then goes and tries it on Vicky, who's Tara Reid's character. And so Tara Reid and Kevin in the bedroom, he's going down on her, and it appears to be working. And
she's like, "Holy shit!" And like covers her mouth with a pillow.
And so we then cut to downstairs. Tara Reid's parents are there, and the mum says to the dad, "Can you go grab Vicky for dinner?" And so he walks up to the room, and then we can see she's just about to climax. And as he gets to the door, he goes to knock on it, and she goes, "I'm coming!" And he kind of shrugs his shoulders as if to say, "Oh," and then walks back downstairs. Now, any sane person would read that scene as being that the dad hears, "I'm coming," and then goes, "Oh, she's coming for dinner. I don't need to knock on the door," and leaves.
And we, the audience, wipe the sweat from our brows and go, "Boy, that could have gone a lot worse."
Yeah, and so with this interpretation, that we have a joke. You know,
there's a setup.
There's a setup. There's a punchline.
There's a prestige.
There's a sense of dramatic irony.
Do you think there's a comedic version of the prestige called the punchline? It's like, with every joke, you've got 3 parts.
And yeah, so it's essentially a joke in my version, which is like, why would they write a comedy film with this fucking delusional interpretation of this line? So now, AJ, I'll let you explain what you think it is.
Now, let me just say, I agree that that's probably what it means.
It is,
and that is
I got steam coming out of my ears.
That wasn't outside of, like, I did not think of that when I first saw it. It's not like that didn't occur to me. But when I first saw the movie, I thought maybe what that scene could have meant, and someone on IMDb forums backed me up with this. By also
now the forum doesn't even exist to back it up.
I can't prove it. So I thought when she in the throes of passion yells, "I'm coming," and her dad stops, doesn't open the door, just kind of shrugs his shoulders and walks back downstairs, I thought maybe that means he's just a real cool dad and he can hear that his daughter is currently being serviced to, and goes, "Oh, better not walk in there then."
Like,
aren't I a fucking idiot?
Oh my god!
Like, isn't
thank
that
God
just
you said
the most, like, insane thing to think that a dad would do that? Oh my god!
No, it's not a. Like, okay, this is an argument we've been having for like a year and a half. Now
Every day, I come home from work and Richard's like, he left because she thought she was coming for dinner.
when you say like I come home from work, it's as if I'm like some fucking housewife.
Yeah, you sit there at like, you don't sit on the couch, you squat on the couch like Gollum, and and as soon as I walk into the lounge, you go, he thought she was coming down for dinner, and I go, I gotta go do some editing on the podcast, and you throw poop at me.
Now, as we were watching the film, or one of the films, there was another misconception you had that you said was backed up by an IMDb forum. What was it?
So Stifler's character refers to Finch's character as shitbreak because Finch can only poop at home, so he always runs home to poop. But with the American accent, it kind of sounds like he's saying shitbrick. And I remember seeing a forum post that was like, is he saying shitbreak or shitbrick? I mean,
that was not as bad.
That one's not as bad. Because that's like, it sounds like he's saying shipwreck, and shipwreck's kind of vaguely like terminology that I was familiar with.
Yeah, like shitting a brick.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm glad that's out for
what do you think,
the audience.
Listeners? Do you think that Vicky's dad was just real cool and was like, you know what, I'm not going to ruin this moment for her? And do you know what? When we watched it again this time for this podcast, when that scene happened, Richard looked at me, staring daggers at me as if to say, see, you fucking idiot. And I went, I mean, I actually genuinely, in my panic state of you staring daggers at me, I couldn't remember which was the actual interpretation it's supposed to be. So that's just my...
Like, my defense, not that I need to defend it, is that your way isn't a joke.
It's still a joke. It's like, oh yeah, the dad, that's pretty funny that the dad would be that on board with that kind of thing happening. It's not a very good joke. Movies are full of not very good jokes. That could just be one of them. If you want to, can we get Adam Hertz? Can we get him on the podcast and be like, what did this scene mean?
Oh my god, that's...
If you know Adam Hertz, everyone who's listening to this, tweet at Adam Hertz and say, please get in contact with the Cult Popture Boys. Hashtag I'm coming. Hashtag justice for Vicky.
Oh my gosh. That is like... Yeah, you're a genius, man.
Thank you. I also interpret movie scenes with what some would say vague original ideas.
Do you remember a website? Did you ever go on a website called 11points.com?
I did.
Now...
Because top 10 lists were for cowards.
So, run by a guy called Sam Greenspan. The website's kind of dead now. He uploads maybe like 2 lists a year. He once uploaded a list. He uploaded this in 2010 when American Reunion wasn't even on the horizon. Well, I mean, it might have been on some horizon. But it was... listing the 11 stars of American Pie by box office success post American Pie.
Can you tell me who the 11 stars he included were?
Yeah, I'm going to go through. So, number 1, it's like, I'm not just going to leave it there. Or unless were you like doing a back and forth thing?
No, I was saying like, well, we could have done that, but I was more meaning like, I didn't realize there were 11 stars, and surely there's more than 11.
Okay, you're right. So, number 1, and like, so I found this interesting. Like, who would you guess number 1 is?
Like, who's made the most money?
Yeah. So it's this is based on domestic for US box office success for their films. So each actor or actress is like their numerical value is how much money every film that they were in grossed put together.
I feel like it's between 3 of them.
Who would you say?
I feel like it's either Eugene Levy, Sean William Scott, or Jason Biggs.
Interesting.
Or Heather, who played Heather.
Mina Savari. So it's interesting because you think of Sean William Scott and you're like, he's the biggest star for American Pie. Mm-hmm. Like he's the one that people know his name. But at the same time, he's not actually in a lot of films. Like when
Mr. Woodcock.
But when you try and name
Welcome to the Jungle / The Rundown.
When you try and name Sean William Scott movies, you come up with like these kind of
the starts with G. It's not like a real word.
Goon.
Yeah,
it's just called Goon. And there's Goon 2. So
Goon
when
2.
they put it on the list. That's also got Eugene Levy in it, fun fact. He's in both of them, I think. So, yeah, Sean William Scott is actually the highest grossing star post American Pie. So, in 2010, he'd made just over $1 billion, or his films had made just over $1 billion. Helped out a lot by the fact that he's in Ice Age. He's from the second one onwards, he's in Ice Age.
He's one of the otters? Or what are they?
Yeah,
Like
one of them.
Yeah, I think he's an otter.
And then second was Jennifer Coolidge.
Ah, of course. Forgot about
$907 million. Third, Eugene Levy, $903 million. So that's our top three.
Mm-hmm.
Fourth, and here's where it gets a little bit interesting.
I'm literally shaking in my seat.
So fourth is John Cho.
Oh, but that doesn't count. He's not one of the 11 stars of American Pie.
Well, you're not going to like number 5 then. So yeah, John Cho, he's the person that gave the world MILF.
Yeah.
Which is, MILF is a term that was popularized in the first American Pie, describing Syphilis mom. And John Cho, who you might recognize as Sulu from the new Star Trek movies, and he's also Harold and Kumar. Yeah, he made just under $800 million. So, and then number 5, Casey Affleck. So it's not. Keep in mind the
Casey Affleck's not number 1. that's what shocks me.
Okay, name a Casey Affleck film.
Manchester by the Sea.
How much do you think that grossed?
I don't know. I just thought
billions of dollars.
He's the only one of them with an Oscar. So I would have thought.
Yeah. So you got Manchester by the Sea. What else?
Gone Baby Gone.
Yeah. And small indie hits.
American Pie 2. He was in that.
Yeah, so this is subtracting American Pie,
okay.
And he'd made just under $500 million.
That's crazy that those other actors.
But yeah, but to be fair, the list is 11 American Pie actors, not stars of American Pie, or the 11 main characters. So. Number 6, Natasha Lyonne, who's the one from Orange is the New Black, $324 million. Number 7, Shannon Elizabeth, $293 million. Number 8, Mina Savari, $278 million. I think American Beauty came out just before American Pie,
right?
So that's not included. Number 9, we finally have one of the main 4, Jason Biggs, $223 million. Number 10, Chris Klein, Oz, $163. And 11, Eddie K. Thomas, 107.
Who's that?
Finch. And then also just...
What's Finch done since...
I know, right?
Finch and Kevin and Oz, actually, all three of them kind of just...
Yeah. Well, so... And then after that, you have as well Chris Owen, who's the Shermanator, $100 million. Tara Reid, $74 million. Alison Hannigan, $70 million. And Thomas Ian Nicholas, who's Kevin.
Man. Wild that, like, Sherman made more money than Tara Reid. Because I feel like I know Tara Reid's... like who she is way more than...
Now, I did the meticulous task of updating this list to see if anything changed.
Sam, if you're listening, this one's for free, buddy.
So...
Sam Greenspan.
In 2018, who would you guess is the number 1 highest grossing star of post-American Pie?
I kind of want to say Jason Biggs.
Really? You think Jason Biggs went from 9th to 1st?
Maybe.
What's he been in?
Like that Dane Cook movie. No, Orange is the New Black. He was in Orange is the New Black. I feel like...
How much do you think Orange is the New Black grossed at the box office?
Oh, please don't treat me like an idiot for not knowing box office.
And also the Dane Cook movie came out before 2010, so that was already counted.
Sorry. Can I
So
try?
this is just between... So differences that would have occurred between 2010 and 2018.
I don't know if any of them have been in anything.
Okay, well, I can tell you...
Eugene Levy? He's been in stuff.
Eugene Levy is now the number 1. So he went from $903 million to $1.45 billion. He's in Finding Dory.
Is he?
Which made $500 million at the box office.
Who is he in Finding Dory?
He's Dory's dad.
Ah.
You haven't seen it, have you?
I've seen Finding Dory.
Oh, yeah, no, he's Dory's dad. Eugene Levy and Diane Keaton.
I've seen Finding Dory, son of a bitch.
Okay. Number 2 is Sean William Scott, 1.449. So, like, only...
So, this isn't how much these actors themselves have made.
No.
This is the movies they've been in.
Yeah, so it's like how much of a box office star they can be, kind of thing. And then number 3 is John Cho. Number 4 is Jennifer Coolidge. And then the rest of them are actually the same position. It's not funny. So, Chris Klein... between 2010 and 2018 made $0 at the box office.
Oh my gosh.
But Eddie K. Thomas's $35 million wasn't enough to bring him up from 10th place. And that's like, I think, just Harold and Kumar's Christmas.
Is he in that?
Yeah. He's in all the Harold and Kumar films.
Okay.
So, yeah, Jong Cho, Eddie K. Thomas, and Neil Patrick Harris are in like 4 films together because Neil Patrick Harris is in American Reunion.
Very briefly. If you're a Neil Patrick Harris fan, don't go rushing for American Reunion.
Yeah. And so, Alison Hannigan's another weird one as well. She made
True, I didn't even think of it.
$1,926 between...
So box office obviously isn't including television.
No.
That changes.
Yeah, so obviously Alison Hannigan is probably the one that's kept in the public eye the most because she's Lily Unharmony Mother, or she was.
She was also in Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yeah, exactly. So,
but that wasn't since 2010.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, even beforehand, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so and like Sean William Scott, he's had 3 Ice Age films since 2010, so he's was able to stay.
I think it's him and Justin Long play they're possums. That's what they are.
Oh yeah,
they're possums.
Yeah, that's right. So that's interesting.
It is interesting.
I thought that might be a little fun thing.
No, that's cool. That's interesting to look at. Like, the afterlife of American
because
Pie.
like, fuck it, like Kevin's a nothing.
Well, I don't even know who Chris Klein is. Like,
yeah, I couldn't name a single other. I mean, I looked at them the other day. I couldn't name a single other film that Oz or Kevin are in.
Yeah, they didn't forget how to act. If anything, they got better by
which is really interesting. And I'm glad you brought that up because the American Reunion does such a good job of like bringing these characters back and letting them have the same voice, kind of thing, and. Because it's so often a problem with these distant sequels that you see the actors just don't know how to play them or they don't care.
Even Blade Runner 2049, the best distant sequel ever made. Harrison Ford. Yeah, Harrison Ford isn't really playing Deckard. He's playing.
Yeah,
so that's the character's name, right?
Yeah.
Good. Someone said it was Eckhart the other day, and I had a panic attack.
And you were like, that's not what IMDb Forum says. Yeah. I'd say American Reunion is probably the second best distant sequel ever made.
What about like Star Wars? Or do they count? I feel like Star Wars transcends the idea of a distant sequel, maybe.
Yeah, I guess Star Wars I'd call a reboot.
Well, it's not, but it took 2 attempts to do a well-received distant sequel.
But I'd say that Star Wars is like, look at these new characters, watch them go.
Yeah.
Same with like Creed kind of thing as well. Whereas like American Reunion and 2049 are like the next.
Do you ever think you mention those 2 franchises in the same sentence?
Yeah, they're like this is the next chapter.
Yeah, totally. No, absolutely, and I really appreciated that. Like, because American Reunion it's true to its characters. You're right. Which
is insane. Like, it's not written by the original guy. You'd think that no one else could do it, but
and that's one of the reasons I defend Clerks 2 as a sequel, because it's like, yeah, it didn't need to be made, and yeah, it's a completely different story with the same characters, but it does show where those characters would be at this time in their lives.
Yeah. Can we just talk about one of the best bits of American Reunion as well? Okay. When it's going to take heaps to set up, and so there's like, they've just told Stifler, like, because Stifler's they have the moment of like, grow up.
Yeah.
Get a life. You actually just need to leave everyone alone. You're a dick, and you need to grow up. And then Stifler like goes back to his temp job, and he's working late. It's the night of the reunion, and all the guys are like, "Wait, where's Stifler?" And they're like, "Oh." And they go to his office and say, "Hey, you know what? You are a dick, but you're our dick," kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And then, we've been shown as well that Stifler's life isn't really up to much, and so. At the reunion, there's like Heather and Oz are like having a moment, and then Dr. Ron or Dron comes up and says like, "Oh, like, you know, get away from my girl," and like antagonizes Oz and all this stuff because they were kissing, and then he sort of shoves him. He's like, "What are you going to do? Hit me? Because if you do, I'm going to sue you for you."
He specifies this isn't high school. We're not teenagers anymore. Yeah. You lay which is very important.
Yeah. He's like, "Yeah, if you lay a finger on me, I'm going to sue you for your worth." And then just boom, this fist comes from the side of the screen. Dr. Ron gets knocked to the ground, and Stifler's like, I ain't worth jack shit, Dron. And then he like puts his hand on Oz's shoulder. He's like, I'm your dick.
It is cool, though. I do feel like Dron wasn't painted as enough of a asshole for me to like not feel bad that he kind of lost his girlfriend. I don't know. He wasn't. He was fine. He was just kind of creepy.
Yeah, but like the whole I'll see you for your worth, and then the character who's worth nothing.
Yeah,
being
that's
like,
great.
well, fuck, okay, do me then.
Dron. You know what? Okay. If for those of you playing at home, here's the articulation of a lifetime. The difference between the American Pie actual series and American Pie Presents spin-off series is that American Pie feel like almost a parody of teenage, like the world through teenagers' eyes. Like these things are, you get things like Jim fucking a pie, like the titular moment of the series. Jim has sex with a pie because the kind of idea of the first American Pie film is essentially teenage boys will stick their dick in anything, even a pie, and that's true.
Especially a pie.
Like that's basically true. Whereas the American Pie Presents series are kind of like they take it as if it is truth. They take it as if the way that teenage boys see the world is the way the world is. And that's the biggest difference. So stick that in your pipe.
Stick that in your pie.
And eat it. And fuck it.
Stick that in your pie and tell your mother you ate it all. Yeah, no, that was the articulation of a lifetime. Yeah, do you want to talk about titles?
Let's talk about titles.
Yeah, so this you've spoken in the past about and in fact we talked about it the other day.
We talk about titles a lot
on this podcast. But that you've talked about abandoning numbers. And you said that you like the titles for Mission Impossible because it's Mission Impossible 1, 2, 3 and then Ghost Protocol, Rogue Nation, and now Fallout. And not only, like, so they abandoned the numbers and then they left the numbers in the past, and also the names they came up with for the other ones are just cool names.
Yep. And to another good example would be the Addams Family films. The Addams Family, the Addams Family Values, the Addams Family Vacation. Cool idea.
Yeah.
And to show you the opposite of what I'm talking about here, which if you don't care about what titling a movie is, like, I don't know, I can't relate to you then because to me it's super important. But so to show you on the opposite end, something like Friday the 13th went like part 4, then part 5 was called something else, and then
part 4 was the final chapter. Then part 5 was A New
5.
Beginning. Part 6 was Jason Lives.
But they bring the numbers back in.
Right,
they leave the numbers and do final chapter, then bring the numbers back in.
Do you know Nightmare on Elm Street's worse because that goes Freddy's dead and then
right.
Yeah, that
or Jurassic Park, Lost World, Jurassic Park 3.
That's the worst one. Yeah.
Yeah, or
because there's no Jurassic Park 2
or Final Destination 1, 2, 3, The Final Destination, Final Destination 5.
Yeah, that might be the worst one.
That's just annoying. I mean, Fast and Furious have different titles all over the world.
Yeah, Fast and Furious, it's a joke at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what do you think of American Pie then?
I really like American Pie. So for those who don't remember, it goes American Pie, American Pie 2, American Wedding. Then, if you don't include the spin-offs, it goes American Reunion. So if you were looking at the series as its pure theatrical releases, American Pie 2, American Wedding, American Reunion. That's cool.
So, I mean, like, and in some centres and stuff, they are called American Pie Wedding, American Pie Reunion.
I don't count them.
So, if you had to retitle American Pie 2 to fit into the thing, what would you call it?
I've thought about this, and I was thinking the immediate one that comes to mind would be American Summer, because it's based in the summer.
That's already a film, isn't it?
But Wet Hot American Summer is already a film and a franchise. So the other idea I thought of for American Pie 2, and help me out here, I thought maybe like American Glue, because in similar it's about what Jim puts his dick in, because in American Pie 2 he gets glued to his hand.
He puts his dick in the wedding.
Yeah, he puts his dick in the wedding. So I don't know. Like, what do you think? Do you have any ideas for that?
I would have said like American Lake House.
Right, sure.
Along those lines.
And then to bring the spin-offs into it, they're all American Pie Presents, then the name of the film. It's almost like Cloverfield. and that they're just trying to like ship other teen movies using the American Pie brand, and that's fine. I don't really have a problem with that, especially because they're American Pie Presents blah 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 blah, and not
American Pie Banquet.
4. Yeah.
So the other thing I wanted to discuss quickly is, so we meet 5 Stiflers. You've got Stephen, Matt, Eric, Dwight, and Scott.
Yeah.
Rank them for me, and give me a little blurb about each of them.
Oh, okay. As how they acted, or how they are as people.
Just as a whole package.
Okay, so in terms of like screen charisma, you'd go obviously Steve first. That's Sean William Scott's one. Then you'd go Dwight. Then Scott is basically just a backdoor Steve. He's not very interesting, and at least Eric, while acted poorly, is like a different character.
Yeah.
In terms of who I'd want to hang out with. Huh? Matt, sorry. No, Eric.
Yeah, no. I said, what about Matt?
Matt, right. Matt, I don't know. Matt is like someone who's exhibits the ability to change, and so that's kind of intriguing.
Yeah, I think in terms of screen presence, Matt is just a very good Sean William Scott impression.
Sort of like how the dude from Dumb and Dumber was a really good Jim Carrey. But in terms of who I'd want to hang out with, I'd probably want to hang out with Eric.
Yeah.
Because he's the only one who's not like an insufferable asshole straight up.
Yeah, I would say I reckon I real like Dwight. Dwight's the
best budget one. No, I don't know. Matt was pretty good.
I almost would want to hang out with Dwight more than anyone. Dwight's the one that out of all of them, including Steven, he's the one where I'm like, I can see why people are friends with you, because he's not actually that mean.
He's not. You're right. He's just
like,
a partier.
Yeah, he's just a party guy. Like, Steven is mean to his friends, and there's a few moments like, and this is one of those things that a lot of the American Pie copycats get wrong, is that they don't make Steven likable other than just being cool. So they don't make their Stifler character cool, likable. Where there are genuine moments of caring. And
with Steve, you're okay.
Yeah, with Steve, especially come American Wedding. Like he really wants their wedding to go. I mean, partially it's to bang Michelle's sister, but you do get the sense that he genuinely feels bad when things go wrong for Jim and Michelle, and when it's his fault and stuff like that. Whereas Dwight never does anything. I mean, apart from people who are established as his enemies, he never does anything. He never screws over Eric or any of his friends in any kind of way. And yeah, like he seems like the one he would, you know, if that's what you're after. If you go to college, he's like, I can get you laid, and he won't get anything out of it. He's just like happy to help people out, kind of thing. And so that's why, despite appearing in The Naked Mile and Bait House, I would say Dwight is almost the best Stifler.
Yeah, and that's just down to probably acting ability.
Yeah. Whereas
characterization, he's probably better than Steve.
So I would go, Dwight and Steve are interchangeable kind of thing. They're good for different reasons in a way. But then I'd go Matt, because it's just, you know, it's budget Sean William Scott. And then I'd go Eric, as much as I hate him. And then Scott is like one of the worst characters in any film.
I feel,
and one of the worst films I've ever seen.
I feel bad for putting Eric high up, because I just remembered how eager he was to cheat on his girlfriend, even though he got her permission, and that knocks him down a few pegs, in my opinion. So
with this Stifler conversation, we're going to lead into continue the franchise.
Okay.
So I have a couple of continue the franchises.
As do I.
And a way I could actually do these is, one is pitch a fifth spin-off, and then pitch a fifth theatrical release. For my spin-off, I don't know what it's called, but bring back Eric Stifler and just let him play the fucking psychopath that he clearly is. Like
American Psycho.
Yeah. This man, like this actor, if you're listening, you're a horrendous actor. Give up. He is incapable of showing any emotion, especially in his eyes. Like, he has these horrifying serial killer eyes. There's one of the first shots we see of him when he's getting ready to jack it, and, you know, moments before his first murder of his grandmother, the neighbor knocks on the window and says, "Hey, you seen the lawnmower around?" And he's like, no. And then he's like, all right, we'll get back to what you're doing. And he just stares at him. Eric just stares at the neighbor. And I think we watched that bit twice for some reason. But I was like, I have no idea what emotion he's trying to show. Is he confused? Is he like, get off my lawn?
It was like now it's back to business.
That did not read on screen in the slightest. We should actually post a screenshot of it to like get what I'm talking about. But it is like uncanny how like there's nothing behind the eyes. It's terrifying. So that's American Psycho. My like just American Pie presents Eric's a fucking psychopath. He's at least a sociopath. I don't know if he's a psychopath, but incapable of empathizing with people's emotions because he's like, oh, my girlfriend doesn't want to have sex, better go fuck everyone on the Naked Mile. Yeah, Eric infuriates me. Scott is even worse though. Somehow Scott actually, that was the thing I had. Put Scott and Eric together. They're a fucking murdering duo, but they can't relate to each other.
It's like
and then at the end, they don't learn anything because they're both fucking horrendous characters. So, like, I don't know how much we went into. I can't remember how much we went into earlier, but Scott is in Book of Love for like maybe a minute.
Oh, he's in it more than that.
Well, okay, maybe like 2 minutes. But he doesn't serve like any purpose. He's not like a main character at all. He just kind of stands there in a lot of scenes and then he gets raped by a moose at the end. And it's hilarious, in quotation marks. The Book of Love, generally one of the worst movies I've ever seen. And I've watched a lot of shitty movies for this podcast.
I've seen it twice. I've seen the Book of Love twice.
I've seen parts. I used to have Naked Mile, Beta House, and Book of Love on my iPod Classic, and I think Book of Love I'd like watched a couple of scenes. Like it was the kind of thing I'd like scroll through and be like, "Oh, there's a boob," and then watch it for like 10 minutes.
Tick.
But whereas like Naked Mile and Beta House, I actually like enjoyed. Like I remember the first time I saw Naked Mile. And it was like a sleepover with the lads, and it was like one of those like perfect times to watch.
Yeah, the only time to watch an American Pie Presents film.
Yeah. Anyway, my continuing franchise for the saga films, the American Pie saga. Is that what we're going to call this episode? Or should it be films?
It'll be a series.
As for the saga films, anyway, I don't know the exact way to do it, but I reckon, and it's actually, now that I think about it, it's the same as my continue the franchise for The Hangover, but do American Funeral. And so, like, the obvious character to kill off would be Jim's dad.
No!
But obviously we're not doing that.
It has to be Stifler's mum.
Could be Stifler's mum.
We can kill off Stifler's mum.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of, like, who's a character that would bring them all back together, but not... we wouldn't feel like we're
there's
missing.
no Doug from The Hangover.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I was like, because we could get rid of like Oz or Kevin.
That's just kind of sad.
Again, that's just kind of sad. Like if it was like the Shermanator, maybe.
Yeah, but no one liked him, so it'd be like, It would depend
on how he died and things like that. Like I'm sure the writers smarter than me can figure out a character death that actually Jess.
Yeah,
because and like that could highlight her like. She's only has a cameo, so I don't know if she's too busy with Orange is the New Black or she like didn't want to be in it, or the writers just couldn't think of a way to put her in. But like, I reckon go back and highlight her importance in the first two. She's not in the third one. Go and highlight her importance in the first two films because she's a huge part of those films, and she's actually a really good character. And I think if it's sad that you have to kill her off, but to make the audience realize this, but. And then everyone comes back together and be like, you know what, actually Jess had a huge impact on our lives and it brings them all back to the hometown and we see them again.
Do you think, here's an interesting theory, we'll get back to continue the franchise in a second, but do you think, you know how Finch's love interest in American Reunion is this like random character we've never seen in any other movies, but they retcon and say that she went to high school with them?
Yeah.
Do you think that was maybe supposed to be Jess, but she was too busy with Orange is the New Black? That would make sense. She's kind of filling her role because she's friends with Michelle, which you could contrive from the story.
Yeah, no. Well, Jess was friends with Vicky.
Vicky, yeah, but I mean, maybe they were friends as well eventually. Who knows? But anyway, cool.
And sorry, I forgot to mention this at the start, but Tara Reid has said there are actually plans for a 5th film, potentially set in Las Vegas.
In Las Vegas.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
American Las Vegas.
They're all set in the same town. Anyway, even the spin-offs. Anyway, okay, I've got a couple continuing the franchise as well. As I mentioned before, American Pineapple, whatever you'd want to call it. Like the female...
When you said American Pineapple, I was like, oh, cool. Like, American Pie's about having sex with a pie. I was like, fuck, it's shoving a pineapple up there.
American Pineapple would be just a female reboot. I think that's a good way to negate a lot of the sexism in the original movies by doing the same kind of story from a female perspective. I mean, it's a good opportunity too. They might just screw it up as well. But then I thought you could do a prequel, an American Pie prequel that sees Jim's dad as the main character when he was in high school, because there is something to be said for like a
period piece.
Yeah, period piece, an American Pie set in the it'd be the 70s. That'd be kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But the idea that I want to present to you today, and I've presented this a couple times with a couple different franchises.
American Pie in Space.
No. A sitcom or a TV show called American Pies. And I just think that you could take the general idea of American Pie as a film and transpose that into a TV show, like with new characters, essentially do what they tried to do with the spin-offs, but not stretching the budget out to a whole movie, putting it in smaller chunks. And part of me wants to set it in the 2000s just for fun. Part of me wants to
because we're starting to a little bit now, but see the 2000s as like a period.
Yeah. I don't know. I actually think if you took all the plots of the American Pie spin-offs and that could be a season of a TV show. Like the central ideas, except for maybe Naked Mile, of all of the American Pie spin-offs aren't bad on paper. They're whatever. They didn't do them well. Like especially Bandcamp and Book of Love are both pretty interesting and good ideas, I think. Well, not good, but fine. So I don't know. Yeah, I'd be keen to see that and something that has the same love and care that the first film had put into a TV show format. I don't know. Maybe you've got the same setup that they're trying to lose their virginity. Maybe it's not an overarching plot. Maybe it's like a bottle, an episodic show. But I reckon the world would respond to that.
Like a Monster of the Week show, but with sex.
Yeah. No, because we haven't really had. I can't think
sex procedural.
Yeah, I can't think of a teen TV show except maybe like Skins. Maybe that'd be a good benchmark. I don't know, but American Pie.
They did do it American Skins.
And it's called true. Call it American Pies. I don't know why, because maybe there's more than one episode. So it's American Pies.
Yeah, all right, interesting.
It is interesting, Richard.
You're right. All right, it's time for franchise roulette. AJ, do you want to explain what that is?
Sure. So this is where we select the franchise we're going to do next week, and the way we do that next fortnight. Sorry, and the way we do that is that we have a bunch of franchises on a list that we wrote down personally. So there's no particular order to them; they're just randomly written down, and we've got a random number generator, and that's going to give us a random number, and that random number is going to correlate to something on the list, and whatever that franchise is on the list is the one we're going to do next.
193.
193 is which franchise, please, Richard?
It's Revenge of the Nerds.
No way.
Yeah.
Are you serious? How many are there?
There's 4 of them.
How have this happened? This is the second time on this podcast. Richard, there's some quantum miracles, there's divine intervention at work here, because this happened when we did Nymphomaniac and talked about Tarantino, and now we've bitched about how dated and horrible Revenge of the Nerds is. We watched American Splendor today, which has explicit dialogue about Revenge of the Nerds in it. What a fucking I cannot handle that. That is just so crazy.
Ain't that just the darndest thing?
It is the darndest thing. Man, this is a really Can you, like, God loves this podcast, and he goes,
Well, it's like when we were like, let's do the Godzilla thing, and we got Godzilla, but then we're like, we've got something planned next time, so we'll do Godzilla after that, but let's roll for another franchise, and we got a different Godzilla era.
Like, God looked at the series of this franchise, of this podcast, and went, all right, let's go back in time to The Hangover, the most recent but still dated type of comedy. Now let's go back another era to American Pie, which are pretty dated. Now let's go back even further to Revenge of the Nerds. This is so cohesive for a podcast which randomly selects its topics. We're doing a deep dive on comedy and through the ages, man.
Yeah, like, because we got 2010s comedy, and then early 2000s, late 90s, and then we got mid 80s comedy.
I cannot believe this has happened. I cannot believe this has happened.
So,
like, it's almost annoying because I want this podcast to be randomized, but we're just doing like in-depth studies of comedy now. Goodness gracious me! This season 3 is off to a very interesting start.
So, yeah, we're going to be watching Revenge of the Nerds, Revenge of the Nerds 2, Nerds in Paradise, and then the 2 TV films, Revenge of the Nerds 3, The Next Generation. Ooh, that sounds fun. And Revenge of the Nerds 4, Nerds in Love.
Good titles.
We're talking about titles.
Okay, well, before we head away and watch Revenge of the Nerds, and you can stop listening if you want to this podcast.
I don't.
Before you do, I will say, if you enjoyed it, please subscribe, please rate and review us on iTunes. You can find us on SoundCloud, YouTube, iTunes, as I said, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. These are all the places you can reach and talk to us. And please do reach out and talk to us. We want to know what you guys think. I've been looking at our SoundCloud stats, and I'm not going to name names, but there are a few different listeners that have listened to quite a lot, and we have never been in contact. So if you're listening to this one, please get in contact with us. That'd be really. I would love to know your thoughts on this podcast, on the franchise, on what we're doing, and some of those thoughts will definitely be read out on this podcast the following week or following episode or 2 episodes. I'm going to read out some now. So, on our Lilo and Stitch.
Yeah, so if you've never commented before, we read them out and we respond to them. So, feel free to get engaged.
Lilo and Stitch was the last time we did this. So, we have a comment on Lilo and Stitch, and that's from a good friend of mine named Simon Liddy. And I think he's only commenting because he wants me to read it out, but that's fine. He says, Mint ep, guys, really enjoyed it. I think you should do more fireworks while having your mad scushies. That was, of course, referencing the
phrase mad scushies, which you use a lot.
Yeah, and the 101 Dalmatians. And he said, also, you didn't talk about Lani's thickness. Alex sounded really pumped up about it. So that's my real name, is Alex. This is I guess I told him I thought Lani was thick. And it's,
has that come up on the
Nani.
podcast that your name's Alex?
Yeah, it has.
It must have.
P.S. Do the Spy Kids series because you can bet they are all crap. Simon, the first 3 Spy Kids are good. Anyway. Then on the Daddy's Home and Bad Mums episode, this is going to be a bit of a discussion here because our good friend of the podcast, Brent from Texas, take a shot or drink or whatever it is, he wrote, love having the parents on this episode because we had your parents on that episode. Then he asked about the audio being really strange because there was lots of reverb. Yes, I suck at managing audio. We're getting better. Hopefully this one sounds fine. He said, I haven't watched any of the movies for this episode, but I can offer the following. The parent-child dynamic between Ben Stiller, Dustin Hoffman, and Barbara Streisand and Meet the Fockers is my favourite such relationship displayed on the silver screen. This isn't really relevant, Brent. You can edit this out before publishing. Just don't leave in the parenthetical and make it look like there's a footnote or you forgot to delete. he wrote all that. He also clarified, if anyone remembers this conversation from this episode, Julian Assange is the WikiLeaks guy, Edward Snowden is the NSA wiretapping guy, and Bradley Manning is now Chelsea Manning. And then he referred to the Lost episode, which, if you haven't listened, is a episode we never released where I foolishly watched all the Home Alone movies when I told
some kind of idiot who
when I
thinks
told
that the
Richard
dad's
I was
cool.
going to do the Die Hard. We did the Die Hard movies, and we started the podcast, and I was like, I actually watched a different franchise, and he was so angry, and I was so cowardly that it just wasn't entertaining to listen to. So you can't hear that anyway. Anyway, this is what he had to say on the subject because we kind of put it out to the audience who was right, quote unquote. He said, you cannot release the Die Alone episode. You are in the burgeoning days of this podcast, and like the Bitcoin, years down the road, you can sell that podcast for 15,000 mutton or hobbit feet, or whatever it is your Kiwis use as currency. I've never been stereotyped before. It feels kind of offensive, but like now I know what it feels like. He said, also, regarding who is right, if it were me, I would pick the podcast on a franchise that I'd already seen and could do with my eyes closed, like Back to the Future. Then drop the punchline and make Richard go through a few painful minutes of it before explaining that the joke was a joke and we could still do the podcast he wanted to do. Okay, let's not dwell on this. However, I did want to say something. I did want to dwell on it briefly. Okay, the conversation is not who was right.
You just said that.
No, but it's not. That's not what I'm...
Because you're obviously wrong.
I'm obviously wrong. I'm not wrong. I'm obviously in the wrong, because whenever a prank is committed, if someone puts a water bucket on top of a door and someone opens the door and the water falls on them, the guy who put the water bucket there is in the wrong if you're looking at it on that spectrum, okay? Of course he is. He's not going to claim he was right to do that. And the AJ defense for the lost episode is not, was AJ wrong? The AJ defense is, was what AJ did actually that bad? That's the defense. That's the thing. That's what should be the discussion. So Brent, I want you to comment on that. Was what I did that bad of a thing? Because I talked to another part of the Cult Popture family, Josh Monson, about it the other day, and he said, you know, the thing that just gets me is that your friendship nearly broke up over a movie. And I was like, there it is. So to Josh Monson, who will love that I've said his name, to him, it was like, I just didn't do something that was that bad. Yeah. Anyway.
Well,
let's move on. Anyway, Tim Tarbor commented on the Christmas episode. Oh, he's talking about the lost episode again. Great. He said, if you were going to pair a franchise with Home Alone, it should have been Saw. I get that. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I mean, the argument can be made for Saw or Die Hard, I reckon.
True.
They're both like, they're the same movie.
Michael Griffin commented and said, favourite episode of the year, your parents should have a podcast, Richard.
My parents are very pleased with that comment.
And Tyler Brayley said, good call getting Maureen and Wayne on board. Justin and Gillian, fuck off. Oh god, I hope they're not listening. Like the one episode they listened to is the American Pie one.
Yeah, where the phrase "sexy boobies" is used.
Yeah.
Like my parents probably will listen to it.
The Hangover. On the Hangover episode, Brent wrote the following. He said, I am the chosen one, because he's our only fan who's actually in the drinking rules game.
Yeah, no,
drinking game
you
rules.
were like, Brent, this is, man, we do this podcast, man, it's all for you.
So he's like, I'm the chosen one. Then he also said, brilliant as always. I had a comment all typed up, but the video auto-nexted to something about Kamel Hassan and I lost it. The only two things I can remember from it are this. One, compare the Hangover series with Lethal Weapon. Is Mr. Chow Joe Pesci?
Yes, I was like, when I read that comment, I was like,
and
I wish I'd come up with that.
Extrapolating that further, Mr. Chow and Joe Pesci are a character archetype that you could probably find in a lot of movies. I'm not saying your point isn't valid. I'm saying that's a really interesting archetype to look into. It's like a cross between comic relief and bad guy almost.
Yeah, it's like because Joe Pesci's never the bad guy.
Yeah.
It's that it's just that irritating side character, like failed comic relief.
He also said Bradley Cooper was decidedly not a serious actor until after these movies, because we talked about how Bradley Cooper was the only non-comedy actor.
I was thinking that.
He said, before The Hangover, I first saw him as the douchebag fiancé in Wedding Crashers, and as Ben in When Hot American Summer. Good lord, this whole thing just comes back around.
Oh, you just let this massive thing of dribble out of your mouth.
Don't tell
I'm
them
sorry to ruin the illusion, but it was funny.
Both in comedic roles, I think he made the jump to serious acting with Silver Linings Playbook. Fair enough. He said, my only regret is that I normally listen while I'm at work.
Is that I have bonitis.
Huh?
My only regret is that I have bonitis. Just a drama reference.
Is that I normally listen while I'm at work, so I can not enjoy the game you've come up with. Cheers. Cheers, Brent.
Cheers.
Michael Griffin said, I'm glad Richard pulled the curtain closed. It really improved the audio. Tyler Brayley said, holy shit, I love the violent threats directed at each other towards the end. I do too, Tyler. That's my favourite part of the episode.
And then Cult Popture replied.
Oh, what'd you say?
I said, fuck you, Tyler, you piece of shit.
And Christy Blackmore, another soon-to-be member of the Cult Popture family, potentially, and also friend of the podcast. And
Didn't she say no?
In real life. She said, I can't wait to listen to this. And then she said, I'm 1 minute in and it's already a best episode. Thank you, Christy. Anyway, that's the episode for this week. This
went way longer than I thought it would.
Yeah, man, we're around 2 hours now.
Yeah, I didn't get any trivia.
That's it. That's all you didn't get. Anyway, tune in next week for us continuing on the Cult Popture Oscar season, and then Revenge of the Nerds after that, and what will hopefully complete a trilogy of us examining comedy through the ages, unless we get the Porky's series after. Oh my gosh, if we get the Porky's series after Revenge of the Nerds, strike me dead. That isn't going to be insane. Wait, when did Porky's come out?
81.
Oh fuck, never mind. It doesn't relate at all. What's a 70s?
Although it's about the escapades of teenagers in 1954. Oh man.
All right.
Oh, yeah, there's the Porky's films, the Porky's 2 the next day, Porky's Revenge, and Porky's Pimpin' Pee-wee.
I think I've never heard of Porky's Pimpin' Pee-wee.
Yeah, it's a 2009 remake of the first one.
Ah, yes. I've seen the first Porky's. It's not very good. Anyway, that's the American Pie episode. Thank you very much for listening, everybody. We're going to play you out.
And a special thank you to Brett Taylor.
We're going to play you out to old... This bed is on fire. Do you know, that song is so synonymous with American Pie, but it only appears... It's only used
in 3, Bandcamp, and Reunion.
And it's in Book of Love as well. A different version of it. But it's synonymous with the movies, and it's in... until American Reunion, it was only in the worst good one, and then...
Yeah, well, to be fair, it's in half of the originals. Of, the original... the saga films, if you will.
Sure, but then if you know...
Alright, I'm going to start recording. Bye, everyone.